What is up, YouTube? Hey, this is my first attempt at some breaking news. Now, check this out. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Damian Williams announced resignation from office. He is stepping down. I'm trying to tell y'all, this Diddy case is making a lot of people step down. Now, I haven't gotten the full story, and my people are on it. We're on it, but he's stepping down. I'm thinking that because of Trump is taking over, Trump is putting his people in place, so all this crazy stuff can stop. All this cover up. Y'all heard 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦. Y'all heard these people saying that they went to the police. Wait a minute, y'all. We just got hold on. He just gave me a video. So I'm gonna set all this down and I'm gonna put this up just like it is. I don't know. Yeah, U.S. Attorney Damian is resigned on December.
Even President-elect Trump has tapped 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗞𝗦 as Manhattan's top federal prosecutor. Damian Williams announced his resignation today. Williams is the first black U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, and he says that he'll leave his post December 13th. During his tenure, he oversaw several high-profile cases, including the convictions of former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez and also former FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried. Williams' office also indicted Mayor Eric Adams on bribery charges and music mogul Sean Diddy Combs on sex trafficking charges.
Wow. He is stepping down and somebody else is taking a place. We also know that Friday, Puffy went up for bail. And, man, I'm trying to tell y'all, man, it's some... oh, my God. Now I'm putting these two things together. The judge said he will come back with his decision like Monday or Tuesday. So these people are playing a different game behind our backs. I can't believe this dude is going to step down. Oh my gracious, man, this plot is getting thicker and thicker. I cannot believe this. After all that stuff that he said, somebody's making him step down, man. Where's Jaguar? Where is Jaguar Wright? I need her on this. I don't supposed to get this information this fast. I don't know what to do. That's crazy. Man. Let me see something real quick.
A third bid for bail by P. Diddy and his team, and we'll know the ruling early this week. Will the disgraced rapper be set free from the Brooklyn jail he's recently called home? If that's the case, what would bail for the mega-rich superstar even look like? And where would he go? We're unpacking it all with former prosecutor 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦, who says Diddy's release
y'all
could
watching me research.
happen, and soon. I'm 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗞𝗦, and this is Law and Crime News. For more than 2 months, 55-year-old Sean Diddy Combs has called Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center home. Since his arrest on September 16th, Diddy's been held without bail on federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. But it's not for trying on the defense's part. Diddy pleaded not guilty to the federal charges weeks ago, maintaining his innocence and calling for his release. Just last week, Diddy's team formally put in his third bid at this release, asking federal judge 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗞𝗦 if their client could be placed on house arrest. All this went down in the Southern District of New York's courthouse in Lower Manhattan, where our very own Elizabeth Milner was in the courtroom. As she reported, the defense originally wanted Diddy to be held on house arrest at his Star Island mansion in Miami, Florida. But Judge 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗞𝗦 shot that down quickly, and it was decided if Diddy was granted bail, he'd be staying in New York, specifically on the Upper East Side in a 3-bedroom apartment. If he's granted this bail, it would be to the tune of $50 million, plus some major restrictions on his house arrest. Inside the apartment, there would be 2 live-in guards and another guard downstairs. Diddy wouldn't be allowed any access to phones or the internet unless it was to contact his legal team. On top of all that, there would be a vetted list of people approved to visit Diddy, including his legal counsel and his family. Diddy's attorney Mark 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦 said there was a 0% chance that Diddy would be violent if released, and even called this bail package a very, very rigorous set of conditions, more strict even than at MDC jail.
That attorney has stepped down. It's crazy, man. This is getting crazy. And also allegedly he tried to get I gotta get these names together. One of the victims that have not came forward, she said that he tried to get me to sign some papers that was not right, and she didn't sign them. So that's on the channel and stuff also, man. I cannot believe this, man. It also says that let me see where I started. New York. Current Deputy U.S. Attorney 𝗟𝗚𝗡𝗞𝗦 will become acting U.S. Attorney for the SDNY. Williams said in a brief news release. Wow, man. I cannot believe that my man is stepping down after all that news report and stuff that he did.
Diddy would be violent if released, and even called this bail package a very, very rigorous set of conditions, more strict even than at MDC jail. This marks Diddy's 3rd attempt at release since his arrest, but the other requests have been denied by other judges. First, Magistrate Judge Robin Tarnowski denied Diddy bail, highlighting his apparent anger issues and history of substance abuse. She also voiced concern about a danger to the community or witness tampering should Diddy be released. After that, Judge Andrew L. Carter denied Diddy's release too, arguing the proposed bail package was insufficient to guarantee the safety of the community or to maintain the integrity of the case. Throughout all of this, the prosecution has opposed Diddy's release, most recently saying he simply cannot be trusted. There's more to this too. Federal prosecutors alleging Diddy has been working to taint the jury pool from inside of jail. In recent filings, they mentioned Diddy's apparent use of other inmates' phone accounts to both conduct calls with people that were not on his approved list of contacts and to avoid being recorded. Prosecutors say Diddy's working to subvert the jury process using social media too, like a recent birthday post he apparently coordinated from behind bars. Judge 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗞𝗦 ruled both sides must submit specific Bureau of Prison forms showing what communication forms Diddy is allowed to use. That paperwork was to be submitted by early Monday afternoon. Judge 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗡𝗅's rulings didn't end there though, also calling for the prosecution to throw out documents collected during a sweep of Diddy's jail cell. The defense says 19 pages worth of notes with legal materials were collected during this search. Prosecutors argued this sweep was already planned even prior to Diddy's arrest and that no privileged information was collected. That was a win for Diddy's team, but will they score another win this week too with his release? Okay, all of you out there multitasking, listen up. If you're out running errands, this one is for you. I have to tell you about this new app, Upside, that gets you code on your screen and use our promo code
This right here is beginning. It's
always
beginning.
Great to have you. 25.
It's beginning to be a wild circle. Lawyers stepping down. Did y'all hear about TD Jakes passed out or something happened to him? Oh my gracious, man. It's coming down, man. It's coming down little by little. People are finding any excuse. Usher deleted his Twitter account and then said he got hacked. Then he come back up with stuff missing that was tweets that was there. Think about it. Something fishy is going on. I'm just letting you know. My man done stepped down. How in the world I see
5 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas.
Oh my God, I can't believe this.
For some much needed insight, we're turning to former prosecutor 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦. 𝗟𝗡𝗟, it's always great to have you on with us.
Always great to be with you.
All right, so this is Diddy's third try for release for bail. What do you think? Is it going to happen?
I'm a little worried that it might actually happen this go round. Reason being that the judge seemed to be asking more questions about where he's going to be held, what kind of house arrest. There was a discussion about him living during this time period at his mansion in Miami Beach. The judge had an issue with that because there was a dock, so he felt that that could be a way for him to flee and not come back to court. And so now there's more of a discussion of, well, maybe he can stay in his 3-bedroom apartment in New York City. So the fact that they're getting that into the details tells me that the judge is considering it. And so if you're considering it and not dismissing it out of hand like the previous judges did, that tells me that there might be some hope for Diddy's team.
I think you're right in that it seems that the past couple of rulings happened almost instantaneously. We knew that he'd still be back at MDC, but now it's like, oh, the judge is going to think it over for a couple days, so I guess we'll see. But going back to your point about him hoping to live in Miami, in Florida, while he was on house arrest, that was interesting to me that they offered that up as the first choice rather than New York, so close to the courthouse. What do you think the reasoning behind that would have been?
I think a couple things. Number one, it's just a bigger house. So obviously he'd want to be someplace where he'd be comfortable and where it's very familiar to him, and also where he has that base of support. And I think he feels most comfortable in Miami. Of course, in terms of proximity, it would make more sense to be in New York, but also at the same token, that's where he's being tried, and it's not necessarily a happy place for him right now. So in all likelihood, it's a matter of comfort and just having that space, because again, he's going to be on house arrest, meaning he cannot leave the house, period, end of story. The only times you get to leave the house if you're on house arrest is if, let's say, you have to go to work, or you have a doctor's appointment, or if you go to church, and like legit, not that, oh, suddenly I found religion so that I can start going out now that I'm house arrest. You already clearly have been part of a church, home, synagogue, temple, whatever the case may be. You've already been worshiping there on a regular basis. So now they'll let you continue to do so. So of course, Diddy being Diddy, he obviously does not need to go to work like the average human being, and he's likely not going to church. So he's basically not going to be leaving the house at all. And with that being said, you'd likely want to be in a more comfortable surroundings if that is an option for you. And for him, it is an option.
One of the stipulations about this bail package would be, okay, he has to stay in New York on the Upper East Side, but there are also a couple of security guards too that would be live-in, actually up in this apartment with P. Diddy, and another one downstairs, I'm assuming somewhere in the lobby, kind of keeping tabs on the entrance and exit. What would all of that look like?
Well, I mean, this is all going to be basically at Diddy's expense, because it's not going to be New York City Department of Corrections putting corrections officers outside. The general rule when it comes to house arrest is that, basically you're checking in with a probation officer type situation on a regular basis. You may have an ankle monitor, which has GPS that can clearly see if you leave the house. Of course, people try to play with that. That's a separate issue. But generally, the GPS is pretty accurate in indicating what your location is. And so this would be him having these guards for his own security and his own peace of mind, which is something he probably generally has anyway. If he was just there, let's say for 2 weeks, I'm sure he would have had a team of security that would be securing the exits and entrances as well as being in the apartment. So I don't see that as being something new just in terms of his house arrest.
The security guards kind of got me thinking, because right now at MDC, obviously there are guards there watching what Diddy's doing. They can kind of monitor him and see what he's up to. In this case, it would be, as you said, the security guards that he hired. Let's say something happens potentially nefarious while Diddy is on this house arrest. Could the prosecution then reach out to these security guards, put them on the stand, and have them testify about what happened?
They absolutely could if they feel the security guards were actually witnesses to something, whether it be witness tampering or something more nefarious. The question is, will the security guards testify? And what would they say? I mean, would they kind of do the code of no snitching and, say, oh, I didn't hear anything, or I must have been in a different room, or whatever the case may be? Or are they going to be forthright and honest with whatever they may have seen? So there's that aspect. But then the other aspect to consider is in terms of the witness tampering, which is where my greatest fear lies, because of the fact that we've already seen his behavior while in custody, where he's doing three-way calls to be able to circumvent the list of people he's not supposed to contact, and being able to basically orchestrate a social media campaign with the goal of tainting the jury, or at least influencing the jury pool, things like that. So with him now out of custody, I would think that behavior would escalate to a higher degree. And so in order for the prosecutors to be able to build a case with regards to witness tampering, the witnesses have to come forward and say, Diddy contacted me, or somebody from Diddy's camp contacted me. Will they? That's a different question. So that's what makes it a little bit more difficult, especially, again, if he's not using his phone, if he's having third parties make these calls, then now it's harder to track those, calls back to him, whether pulling his cell phone records or anything like that. So there's the danger that the court has to balance and consider.
You touched on something really important. This is what the prosecution was talking about all last Friday in their hearing, that they're alleging that Diddy is trying to, from behind bars, taint the jury pool. Again, you mentioned the three-way calls, potentially influencing a social media campaign. Okay, so he's outside of jail. Let's say that he is granted bond. Again, to your point, wouldn't it then be way easier to go about continuing this alleged attempt to taint the jury pool? I mean, how would we make sure that that wasn't happening?
That's the rub,
Man, they let
right?
him
That's
out.
the rub, because the reality is his family is going to be able to have access to him. And so he can sit down with his family, much like he was doing from behind bars, and tell them, this is the schedule of what you need to post. This is how you need to, act. And you talk about, we miss our dad and all of these things, which it'll be different if they decided on their own to do that. If they were like, as a family, you know what, we want to support our loved one, and this is how we're going to do it. That's completely permissible. When you're behind the scenes trying to orchestrate like a puppet master, that's where we have a problem. And so I think it would be much easier for him to continue what he's doing and even escalate that behavior. So that's something the court really needs to weigh, because we could be in a situation where we're losing federal witnesses or actual survivors because they've been contacted, they've been intimidated, they've been offered money, whatever the case may be. And the Department of Justice may not be aware of what is going on until it's too late and they're trying to call them in to testify as we get closer to trial next year.
Man, if they let this guy out, we are being taken for a big ride. I can see the ride. I can see the automobile coming up now. We've been taken for a ride, man. Watch.
I think it does make things even more tricky, because one of the stipulations is he's not allowed to have the phone or be on the internet except to talk to specific people, obviously his defense team, his family, some vetted people that were approved by the judge. So how is the judge going to go through and determine, okay, yes, this is safe. I think that Diddy should be released on bail. How can we 100% be sure he isn't using someone's phone or going online?
We can't. We absolutely can't. So that's the tough decision that judges have to make, is looking at the totality of the circumstances, looking at the person's criminal history, looking at the severity of the crime and who was involved. Is this something, for instance, like a domestic violence type offense, where that there's a relationship between the two people and there's a higher likelihood of tampering, maybe not even by the defendant directly, but by other family members or other people they have in common. So that becomes the huge decision that judges have to make, and they're taking a chance any which way, because you can have the most, innocuous seeming person who has no criminal history, the case is okay against them, and then they get released and either reoffend or do something that helped, would be along the lines of witness tampering or something like that. So a judge basically doesn't have a crystal ball. They can't predict what's going to happen. They're only going to make the best decision they can based on the information they have at the time. And then if new information comes to light in terms of Department of Justice is able to come back and say, okay, so-and-so was contacted on this date. Here's a recording of the call or something along those lines. Here's the email. Here's a letter that I can trace back in some way, shape, or form to Diddy. Then absent that, there's not going to be a lot that the court can do.
So if we're looking back at the past 2 times that he was denied bail, one of the judges actually mentioned Diddy's history. Obviously, there are allegations that are pretty severe when we're talking sexual assault, but there's also the Cassie video that shows he could potentially be harmful physically as well. So he could be a danger to himself or others. But then the other...
They also said, allegedly, Cassie was leaving with the bag full of money also. Cassie was trying to leave and maybe she needed some money. So she said he got plenty of money. So she was leaving with the money bag. Said, see that bag she had? That bag was full of money, allegedly. Just letting y'all know.
Judge also mentioned the integrity of the case. So if Diddy was released, he could potentially be harmful. He mentioned Diddy's history. Obviously, there are allegations that are pretty severe when we're talking sexual assault, but there's also the Cassie video that shows he could potentially be harmful physically as well. So
Puffy
he could be a danger to himself or
had
others.
his clothes
but then
in
the
it.
other judge also mentioned the integrity of the case. So if Diddy was released on bail, this judge ruled that it could compromise the integrity of this case. So what do you think this new judge is going to think, considering all of these things and kind of putting them together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to extrapolate based on the reports and sort of the snippets that have come out of the courtroom in terms of the discussion. But I know that there has been a lot of folks that feel that this was too severe, that, people like, Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein was able to, with these types of severe charges be out of custody. Bill Cosby, severe charges, was out of custody, that he's not a flight risk because of the fact that his face and likeness are so well recognized globally. And so, all of those arguments kind of come into play. But at the same token, we still have to balance harm to the case and harm to the survivors and witnesses. And again, he is somebody who, based on what we've heard about his behavior while incarcerated, as well as his behavior allegedly before he was even caught, that he is well versed in witness tampering.
That's his school that has all kinds of financial problems. He promised things to the kids and didn't deliver. He was supposed to show up for graduation and didn't do that. Come on, man. I mean, when are these people going to start doing their homework?
And making people keep their mouth shut and finding that pressure point to ensure that they don't tell any dirty secrets that he has. So I would only anticipate he would continue in that vein, because it's not like he learned his lesson in the last couple of weeks, right? This is a lifetime,
There he goes
again, allegedly, but this is a lifetime of him out here manipulating and harming and assaulting and everything else, and just degrading and all of these things. So I don't see that somehow he's suddenly going to have a come to Jesus moment and now not engage in witness tampering. I just don't see it.
Something else interesting to me during the hearing on Friday is that Diddy's attorney, Mark 𝗟𝗡𝗡, actually said that these are a very, very rigorous set of conditions, and said that this house arrest would be worse than where Diddy is at right now at MDC, which is kind of an infamous jail in Brooklyn for a lot of bad happenings. What do you make of that statement?
Yeah, that's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. You're going to tell me that a 3-bedroom, probably penthouse overlooking Manhattan is somehow going to be worse than being in custody in a jail that is noisy, that doesn't smell very great, that the food is awful? Somehow that's better. Now, granted, I will give this aspect. If he is on suicide watch and he is in isolation, that is definitely tough because you're by yourself in a very small room and that's it, right? And we have seen that that can really affect your mental health. So I will give him on that one point alone. But everything else, he's going to be sleeping in basically his own bed, having his best gourmet meals, and being able to see his family unfettered. He'd be able to hug them, touch them, as opposed to having to see them through glass. So yeah, that argument doesn't hold water for me. Not at all.
You got that right.
It's going to be interesting to see which way the judge does rule. Obviously, all eyes are on the Southern District of New York. Melba, thank you ahead of all of this for breaking it down and giving us some insight into what could happen.
My pleasure.
We can expect to see Judge Submaranian's ruling on Diddy's potential release sometime early this week. For Law and Crime, I'm 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗞𝗦.
Dude, think about it, man. 2 judges said no bail, keep him here. Number 1. So the 3rd judge say, oh, let him out. What does that say about our justice system from the beginning? That the lawyers did their job and found new evidence to let him out? That's number 1. Number 2, if they let him out, more people who've been debating on if they should come forward be like, he's out on bail. So, I knew that's why I'm scared of him. Number 3, he already been using other people's phones or the codes or whatever the case may be. They got all this stuff. They know exactly what phone calls going out and all this stuff. Now you got this prosecutor or whatever you want to call this government official dude is stepping down. God, man, what kind of timing do we have on this stuff? You got a lawyer that already stepped down. One of Diddy's lawyers stepped down. And last but not least, what the hell is on the tapes? You mean to tell me all this time y'all had them tapes and y'all locked them up? Judge, it's got to be something on them tapes to say, nah, he ain't getting out. He need to explain this. We got to make sure we keep him. You got Ali Carter, Jaguar Wright, and I'm just naming, you got Lil Ron, you got Cassidy, you got all these people that's putting 120 cases. I'm trying to figure that 120 cases and you gotta think about it. I'll bring you my decision next Tuesday. Are you playing a game with us? Man, I can't wait till he come back and say yes or no. If he say yes, Diddy can make bail, our world is in trouble. What is on the tapes? That's all your final decision. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, but as a human being, I would tell him, look, I'm 50-50. I really think the man need a fair trial. What's on the tapes? Show me something on the tapes to make me say, beyond a reasonable doubt, he needs to stay in jail. Not only that he's doing things he had no business doing while he in jail, that's the part I can't understand. If they let him out on bail, I'm trying to tell y'all, man, we are being had. Look here, I'm gonna get on up out of here. Golly, Mose, I ain't gonna be able to sleep tonight. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Y'all tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.